If you really want to know the truth about the hi-fi industry, don't ask a salesman. Ask the people less noticed, like the guy with the soldering iron or the audio technician. Check what gear they work on at home. The answer would surprise you. These are the people who spend every minute tearing apart glowing receivers and silver face amplifiers. It's the old stuff, the boring stuff. Stuff with no app, no touchscreen, and no proprietary ecosystem. Tech that was built when the goal was sound quality rather than platform lock-in. These are people who spend their entire working lives pulling apart the machines that the industry wants you to buy. And they have developed a very specific list of things they will never touch with their own money. Today we are going through that list. 5 brands and product lines that audio technicians actively warn people away from, and the reasons why are far more damaging than any review you will find on the retail sites that sell them. Number 1 is the modern Onkyo AV receiver. And to understand why this one is on the list, you need to understand what happened between roughly 2009 and 2018. Onkyo receivers during that period were fitted with HDMI boards containing electrolytic capacitors rated at 85 degrees Celsius. The correct specification for that application should have been 105 degrees Celsius. Receivers generate significant internal heat in normal operation. Those underrated capacitors degraded under sustained thermal stress, lost their capacitance, and failed. The result was no picture, no audio, and a unit that had turned into an extremely expensive piece of furniture. The failure was so widespread and so documented that Onkyo was eventually forced to extend warranties on affected models by years. Technicians were seeing the same units come back through the shop 2 or 3 times with identical failures on a cycle of roughly 2.5 years. Onkyo has since been absorbed into a restructured corporate entity, and the engineering culture that once made the brand worth recommending has not survived the transition. Technicians know it. That is why their own racks run Yamaha or Denon, manufacturers with decades of receiver competence and board designs that do not spontaneously combust under normal household conditions. Number 2 is Bose and what the repair community calls the lifestyle system trap. The marketing around Bose lifestyle systems is genuinely impressive. Small enclosures, elegant hardware, a control console that makes the whole thing look effortlessly premium. What Bose is actually selling you is an ecosystem dependency that you will not fully understand until the day it stops working. The fundamental engineering problem is that the central console permanently couples 2 technologies with completely different lifespans. Audio hardware is mature. A well-built amplifier from 2015 is still a well-built amplifier today. Digital infrastructure is not. When Bose discontinues server support for a proprietary control protocol, or when the control module itself fails, you can end up with perfectly functional speakers connected to a system you have no way of operating. You paid $3,000 or $4,000, and somewhere in that transaction, you also purchased an undisclosed dependency on Bose's server upkeep indefinitely into the future. Bose does not supply spare parts for failed components beyond the most basic accessories. In the golden era of hi-fi retail, dealers were contractually prohibited from running direct A versus B comparisons between Bose products and competing equipment at the same price point. That should tell you everything you need to know about how the brand was positioned and what a direct comparison would have revealed. Number 3 is the premium proprietary streaming platform. And this one requires some care because the brands involved carry genuine prestige. Certain product lines from Naeem, Lin, and Devi represent some of the finest audio engineering currently in production. The hardware is exceptional. The sound quality is real. But what dealers do not explain at the point of sale is the server dependency embedded inside the device you are buying. Proprietary streaming protocols, cloud authentication layers, embedded software services. These are not features. They are liabilities with expiration dates. It is already happening to products only a few years old. When the service behind a core feature is discontinued, The device loses that functionality permanently, not because anything broke, but because a server somewhere went dark. You paid $5,000 for an amplifier, and somewhere in that price was an undisclosed subscription to the continued goodwill of a company that could be acquired or restructured tomorrow. The technicians cannot fix a server that no longer exists. That is the problem nobody in the demo room will walk you through. Number 4 is modern Marantz. And before anyone reaches for the comments, understand that this one hurts to say. The silver-face Marantz receivers of the 1970s are among the most musically coherent audio devices ever manufactured. A properly maintained Marantz 2270 from 1973 still commands between $2,000 and $3,000 on the vintage market, and it earns that price. That version of Marantz understood what it was building and built it to last. The modern version, now several corporate acquisitions deep and currently sitting inside the Samsung Electronics family via Harman International, has largely abandoned the engineering philosophy that made the name worth anything. The failures mirror the Onkyo situation: HDMI board vulnerabilities, thermal management problems, and components that fail right around the edge of the warranty window, with no grace from the manufacturer when they do. Open the chassis of a modern Marantz AV receiver, and you will not find the discrete, individually serviceable circuit topologies of the 1970s. You will find densely populated multi-layer boards using surface mount components that cannot be individually replaced when they fail. The entire board comes out. If that board is no longer stocked, the conversation is over. Buy the silver face from a trusted vintage dealer. Leave the new one exactly where it is. Number 5 is the premium sealed wireless speaker system, and this is the entry that should make you genuinely uncomfortable if you are currently shopping in this category. Products like the Bowers and Wilkins Formation series, the Harman Kardon Citation line, and comparable premium wireless ecosystems sit at price points between $600 and several $1,000s per unit. They are positioned as the convergence of audiophile ambition and modern convenience. To a repair technician, they represent a thermodynamic and economic catastrophe sealed inside injection-molded plastic. The problem is identical to the Bose lifestyle trap, except with an additional layer on top. These devices cram amplifier stages, signal processing, crossover networks, and output stages into hermetically sealed enclosures with no serviceable access. Class D amplifier stages under sustained thermal load inside sealed boxes do eventually fail. When they do, there is no repair path. The device becomes waste. Independent laboratory testing has found that somewhere between 30 and 40% of tested hi-fi equipment does not meet the specifications printed on its own box. With sealed wireless systems, that gap is compounded by one question that no marketing brochure will ever answer. What happens to your $2,000 wireless speaker in 5 years when the companion app is discontinued and the authentication server goes offline? You are left with an enclosure, some drivers, and no input the device will respond to. The technicians already know how that story ends. That is why none of them are buying it. The pattern across all 5 of these is not accidental. The modern hi-fi industry, with a handful of genuine exceptions, is running the same playbook as the appliance industry. It is adding fragile, failure-prone complexity on top of fundamental tasks that have been solved and serviceable for decades. The people who repair these machines for a living have already rebuilt their own setups around that knowledge. Vintage Japanese integrated amplifiers with real mechanical controls and discrete component layouts. Current manufacturers who commit to parts availability and service documentation for a minimum of a decade. Gear whose core function does not depend on a server staying online. The Blacklist exists because these professionals learned the hard way, one scorched circuit board at a time, what the marketing budgets are designed to keep you from finding out.